The scream cut through the rain like broken glass. I froze halfway across the muddy field behind my clinic, flashlights swinging wild. The storm had knocked out power to half the settlement, and I'd been checking the backup generator when I heard it. Not human. Couldn't be. The pitch was wrong, warbling between frequencies that made my teeth ache. Lightning split the sky. In that half-second of white light, I saw her. She lay crumpled against the tree line, humanoid but wrong in every proportion. Too tall, limbs too long, skin that shimmered like oil on water, even in the rain. Dark fluid pooled beneath her, mixing with mud. Her chest heaved in rapid, shallow movements. I should have called the authorities. Should have backed away slowly and let someone else handle first contact with whatever the hell she was. Instead, I ran toward her. Up close, the differences sharpened. 4 fingers on each hand, joints that bent backward. Her face was angular, almost geometric, with eyes too large and entirely black. No whites, no iris, just endless dark that reflected my flashlight like mirrors. She wore something between armor and skin, pale blue and torn, revealing wounds that wept silver blood. Her mouth moved. Sounds came out, liquid and musical, words I couldn't understand. But her hand, her too long hand, reached for me with unmistakable desperation. "Okay," I said, more to myself than her. "Okay, I've got you." Getting her inside took everything I had. She was lighter than she looked, but awkward, all sharp angles and limbs that didn't fold right. She made sounds the whole way, sometimes like words, sometimes like singing, sometimes like pain itself, given voice. The clinic lights flickered when I kicked the door open. I dragged her to the examination room, cleared the table with one sweep of my arm. Equipment clattered to the floor. Later problem, her blood, if that's what it was, had soaked through my shirt. It tingled where it touched skin, not burning but electric. Alive. I grabbed every towel I had and pressed them against the worst wounds. 3 deep gashes across her torso, each as long as my hand. Something had clawed her, or stabbed her, or both. She grabbed my wrist. Her strength was terrifying, even wounded, fingers wrapping completely around my arm. Those black eyes fixed on mine. She said something, 3 syllables that sounded like a question. "I don't understand," I said. "But I'm trying to help. You have to let me help." She held my gaze for 3 heartbeats, then released my wrist and lay back. I worked fast. Human medicine, alien biology, close enough or catastrophically wrong, I'd find out. The wounds needed closing. I flushed them with saline, hands shaking, and nearly dropped the suture kit when her blood started glowing faintly blue. She didn't scream while I stitched, didn't even flinch. Just watched me with those impossible eyes, occasionally making soft sounds that could have been encouragement, or prayers, or warnings. I chose to believe encouragement. 2 hours. That's how long it took to close the major wounds, stabilize what I could, and rig an IV of glucose solution because I had no idea what else to try. She'd lost too much blood. Silver puddles stained my floor, luminescent in the dim light. When I finally stepped back exhausted, she lifted one hand, touched her chest, then pointed at me. Said something that sounded important. "You're welcome," I said, because what else do you say? She tried to sit up. I pushed her back down, gentle but firm. "No, rest. You need to—" Tall figures in armor that seemed to drink the light, moving with liquid precision, 6 of them, weapons I didn't recognize, trained on everything. The lead figure was taller than the rest, armor more ornate, presence more commanding. The woman on my table made a sound, sharp, authoritative despite her weakness. The soldiers froze. The lead figure stepped forward, removing their helmet. Female, if I was reading the features right. The same basic structure as my patient, but regal, unmarked by injury. Her skin held a deeper iridescence, and when she looked at the woman on the table, her expression shattered into something between relief and anguish. She spoke. The musical language filled the room, urgent questions I couldn't parse. My patient responded, voice thin but steady. She pointed at me. Every weapon in the room swiveled to face me. I raised my hands slowly. "I helped her! I'm a doctor!" The commander's gaze shifted to me, and I understood what it meant to be truly seen by something other. She looked at my blood-soaked clothes, at the medical supplies scattered everywhere, at the sutures holding her... what? Soldier? Sister? Someone important together. She looked at her companion again, asked one more question. Soft this time. Almost afraid. The wounded woman's answer was firm. She reached out, touched my hand where it still rested on the table's edge. Spoke directly to the commander. The effect was immediate. Every soldier straightened. The commander's expression shifted into something I couldn't read. Shock, maybe, or recognition of something significant. She turned to me. When she spoke, her voice carried weight that pressed against my chest like physical force. The language was still incomprehensible. But she placed her fist against her chest, then extended her hand toward me, palm up. Behind her, the soldiers mirrored the gesture. "I don't understand," I said again. Seemed to be my refrain tonight. The wounded woman squeezed my hand. Those black eyes found mine, and she smiled. Actually smiled, her too wide mouth curving in an expression that somehow translated perfectly across species. The commander stepped closer. She reached out, touched my shoulder with surprising gentleness, and said one word. She repeated it until I understood she wanted me to learn it. "Savior," I whispered, testing the sound. Not quite right, but close enough. She nodded, said something else, longer, more complex. Then she gestured at the door, at herself, at me. The meaning was clear, even without translation. They weren't leaving without me. The wounded woman tried to stand. This time I didn't stop her, just supported her weight as she rose on unsteady legs. She looked at the commander, said something that made the older woman's eyes widen. The commander turned to me, spoke slowly, carefully, like she was trying to make me understand through sheer force of will. Then she knelt. One by one, the soldiers followed. 6 warriors in unknown armor, kneeling in my tiny clinic, heads bowed. The woman I'd saved leaned against me, her weight both literal and metaphorical. When she spoke, her voice carried across the room with unexpected strength. Outside, the storm still raged. But inside, surrounded by alien soldiers showing me deference I didn't understand for saving a life I couldn't have left to die, I felt the world shift beneath my feet. The commander rose, fixed me with a look that promised nothing would ever be the same, spoke words that sounded like a vow. And I realized with creeping certainty that I hadn't just saved a wounded alien woman. I'd saved their queen. The commander's name was Shivara, or close enough to it that my human tongue could manage. She said it 3 times, patient as stone, until I could repeat it without mangling every syllable. The queen, because that's what she was, what they all confirmed with gestures and repeated words, was called Thessia. She'd refused to let go of my hand, since standing, like I might disappear if she released me. "You need to rest," I told her, knowing she couldn't understand. I gestured toward the examination table. "Lie down. Sleep." They exchanged rapid words, musical but intense. Shivara's expression never changed, carved from the same control that kept her spine straight and her hands loose at her sides despite the weapons on her hip. Finally, Thessia nodded. She let me guide her back to the table, but caught my wrist again before I could step away. Spoke directly to Shivara, her tone brooking no argument. Shivara's jaw tightened fractionally. The only sign she'd heard something she didn't like. She looked at me, seemed to assess something, then gestured to one of the soldiers. He approached carrying a small device, smooth and oval, that pulsed with soft light. Shivara took it, held it up so I could see, then pointed at her own ear. At mine. The meaning was obvious. "Translation?" I said. "You want me to—" No hesitation, no asking permission. She reached up and I felt something cool press against the skin behind my ear. A brief sting, then pressure, then nothing. Shivara stepped back. Spoke. "Can you understand me now?" The words came in her musical language, but meaning bloomed in my mind like she'd spoken English. I nearly fell over. "Yes. How? Neural translation interface," Shivara said. "Temporary. It will fade in 72 hours, unless renewed." She glanced at Thessia. "Her Majesty insisted you be able to communicate." "Her Majesty," I repeated. "So she really is Queen of the Kethron Dominion," Shivara confirmed. "Ruler of 7 systems. Commander of the Void Fleet. Daughter of the Eternal Star." Each title came with perfect precision, like she'd recited them 1,000 times. "And you saved her life." The weight of that settled over me like lead. I'm just a doctor. I help people. It's what I do. "You helped her," Shivara said, "when you could have let her die. When you should have, by any measure of self-preservation. You touched royal blood with your bare hands. Opened her body with your primitive tools. Bound her wounds with fabric meant for lesser beings." "Hey now, what do you say for life?" Shivara repeated, harder this time. "Do you understand what that means in Kethran law?" She watched our exchange with those unreadable black eyes, still holding my wrist like an anchor. "I'm guessing something significant," I said. "Life debt," Thessia said. Her voice through the translator was different from Shivara's, younger, warmer. You hold my life in your keeping now. Where you go, I follow. What you need, I provide. Until the debt is repaid or death claims one of us. I stopped. Processed.
That's insane. You're a queen.
You have responsibilities. People who need you. You can't just... I can, Thesia said simply. I have. The decision is made. Adam said, but his man shakes his eyes. Frustration remained neutral, but something flickered behind her eyes. Frustration? Concern. Hard to read alien micro-expressions even with a translator in my head. Your Majesty, she said, voice careful. The Dominion as it has endured. My sister can hold the throne until I return. If you return, Shivara said. Quiet, dangerous. This world is primitive. Undefended. The moment our presence is known, then we ensure it remains unknown. Thesia shifted on the table, winced. I moved automatically to support her, checking the sutures. Still holding. Shavara, you've been my shield since we were children. Trust me now. I trust your heart, Shivara said. I question your judgment. Thesia laughed. Actually laughed bright and sudden. You always do. I cleared my throat. Can I just... Everyone's talking about me like I'm not here. I have a say in this too. They both looked at me. You could refuse, Shavara said after a moment. Tell her to leave. The life debt would remain, but she cannot force her presence on an unwilling savior. Can I just... I don't know. Consider the debt paid? You're alive. I did my job. We're good. No. Thesia's hand tightened on my wrist. Not painful, but firm. Desperate. It doesn't work that way. The debt exists. The bond exists. I feel it here. She touched her chest over her heart. You pulled me from death's water. The current binds us now. That's poetry, not law, I said. For us, they're the same thing, Shivara said. She sighed, a sound that translated to pure exasperation. You've complicated everything, human. Do you understand that? I saved someone's life, I shot back. Sorry if that messed up your schedule. Shivara's eyes narrowed. Then unexpectedly her mouth curved. Not quite a smile, but close. You have spine. Good. You'll need it. Thesia made a soft sound. When I looked down, her eyes were closing, exhaustion finally claiming her. Her grip on my wrist loosened, but didn't release. She needs real rest, I said. And probably better medical care than I can provide. I stitched her up, but I have no idea if I used the right... That's all that matters. She gestured to 2 soldiers. Secure the perimeter, standard patrol. No contact with locals. To another, scan for tracking signatures. If they followed us here... They? I asked. Shavara's expression went cold. The ones who did this to her. The ones who will come to finish what they started. She looked at me. Protecting her is my purpose. But she's chosen you as savior, which means protecting you becomes necessary as well. I don't need protection. By morning, when word spreads that the Kethran Queen is alive and in hiding on a primitive world, when every assassin, bounty hunter, and rival faction comes looking, she stepped closer. You saved her life, human. That was noble. Foolish, but noble. Now you'll learn what that nobility costs. Tessia's breathing had deepened, settled into sleep. I looked at her, this alien queen who'd crashed into my life, bleeding and desperate, and felt the weight of choices I'd made without understanding their consequences. I'm not a soldier, I said quietly. I'm not brave. I just did what was right. Then you're braver than most, Shevra said. Right and wise are rarely the same thing. She turned away, began issuing orders in rapid Kethron to her soldiers. I stood there, alien queen's hand wrapped around my wrist, and wondered what the hell I'd gotten myself into. Outside, the storm continued. Inside, armed warriors positioned themselves throughout my clinic with practiced efficiency. One set up equipment I didn't recognize. Another sealed the broken door with something that looked like liquid metal but hardened into solid barriers. Shivara returned to stand beside me. You should rest as well. Tomorrow will be difficult. Tomorrow? When she wakes, she'll insist on the formal acknowledgement, the ceremony that binds Savior and Saved. Shivara's gaze was heavy. You'll become part of this whether you want it or not. The only question is whether you understand what you're accepting. And if I say no?
And it will destroy her. The debt unpaid, the bond unacknowledged.
For one of royal blood, that's a wound worse than what she carries now. Emotional manipulation, clear as day. I should have resented it. Instead, I looked at Thessia's sleeping face, at the bandages I'd wrapped, at the life I'd saved because that's what I did, who I was. You fight dirty, I told Shivara. I fight to win, she corrected. There's a difference. She paused. She's a good queen. Better than the Dominion deserves. Whatever else happens, remember that. Is that why you serve her? I serve her because she's the first royal in 3 generations who sees soldiers as people rather than tools. Shivara's voice went soft. And because when we were children, she pushed me into the palace fountain and laughed when I dragged her in after me. Hard to kill someone for a distant council when you remember them soaking wet and giggling. The image was so incongruous with the regal alien on my examination table that I almost laughed. Shivara caught my expression. She's still that person underneath the crown and duty, the one who sees someone suffering and has to help, like you. Her eyes held mine. That's why this works. Why the debt feels true to her. You're the same species of fool. Thanks, I said dryly. It wasn't an insult. Shivara turned away. Get rest. I'll watch over her. But Thessia's hand hadn't released my wrist, and some instinct told me she wouldn't, not even in sleep. So I pulled up a chair and sat beside the examination table, feeling the pulse in her 2 long fingers, steady and strong despite everything. Through the broken door seal, I could see lightning still splitting the sky. The storm that had brought her to me raged on, indifferent to how it had changed everything. I'd saved a queen, bound myself to something I didn't understand, and somewhere in the dark, Shivara had said people were coming to finish what they'd started. I looked at my patient, my queen, my unexpected responsibility, and tried not to think about how utterly unprepared I was for what came next. Outside, one of the soldiers spoke urgently into a communication device. Shivara's head snapped up, her whole body shifting into combat readiness. What? I asked. Just drew her weapon and moved to the window, scanning the darkness beyond. Shivara, I pressed. What is it? She looked back at me, at Thessia, at the situation that had spiraled beyond anyone's control. They're here, she said. The ones who tried to kill her. They've found us. And suddenly the storm outside seemed very small compared to what was coming. The attack started without warning. One moment Shivara was at the window. The next, the entire north wall exploded inward. Not with fire or force, but with something that made the air itself scream. Reality bent wrong, and through the gap came figures in black armor that seemed to eat light. Weapons I couldn't name filled the clinic with sounds like tearing metal and breaking glass. Energy weapons maybe, or something worse. The attackers moved like smoke, fast and wrong, impossible to track. I threw myself over Thessia, shielding her body with mine. Useless gesture. If they wanted her dead, my flesh wouldn't stop whatever weapons they carried, but instinct didn't care about logic. Stay down! Shivara's voice cut through the chaos. She'd positioned herself between us and the breach, weapon-trained, firing in controlled bursts. Each shot left after-images burned into my vision. Thessia woke beneath me, gasping. Her hand found my shoulder, gripped painfully tight. Kethris, she hissed. A name. The same hate in it that you'd use for poison or disease. Who? I started.
My uncle's forces, she said. Tried to sit up.
I kept her down. He sent them. He wants the throne. Of course. Even across species, across stars, it always came down to power and blood. One of Shivara's soldiers went down, armor cracked, silver blood spreading. The others tightened formation, creating a barrier of bodies and weapons between us and the attackers. Shivara fired twice more, then ducked behind the examination table as return fire punched holes in the wall above her head. We can't hold, she shouted. There are too many. Fall back, Thessia commanded, voice carrying despite her weakness. Protect the savior. That's the priority. Your Majesty, that's an order. Shivara's jaw worked. Then she grabbed my arm, hauling me up with inhuman strength. Move! Now! I'm not leaving her! She's coming with us! Idiot! Shivara pulled Thessia up with her other hand, supporting the queen's weight. Back exit, go. Behind us, the remaining soldiers held the line, buying seconds with their lives. I heard them fall one by one, their weapons going silent as the attackers pushed through. The back door led to the alley behind the clinic. Rain hit like bullets. Visibility, maybe 10 feet. Shivara didn't slow, dragging us both forward into the storm. The ship, Thessia gasped. Get to the ship. Too far. Shevra scanned the darkness. They'll cut us off before... Left side. Shevra spun, fired, and something screamed. Not human. Not Catherine either. The sound made my bones ache. More figures emerged from the rain. 6 of them, spreading out to surround us. Their armor was different from Shivara's, sleeker, covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. The lead figure spoke. The translator in my head rendered it as, "Stand aside, Commander. This isn't your fight. Everything involving her is my fight," Shevra said. She'd shifted to put herself between the attackers and us, weapon never wavering. "She's already dead," the attacker said. "Look at her. Even with treatment, she lives," Shivera interrupted. "Because of him." She jerked her head toward me without taking her eyes off the threat. The attackers noticed me for the first time. Their leader's helmet tilted, assessing. "A human? You let a primitive touch royal blood?" Each word precise as a blade, which makes him protected under the Savior's law. "Know this, Kethris." So Thessia had been right. Family. The name matched. Kethris laughed, hollow inside his helmet. "Uncle Voraz doesn't care about ancient laws. The throne will be his by dawn. Whether she dies now or later changes nothing." "It changes everything," Thessia said. She'd pushed past Shavara despite the commander's protest, stood on shaking legs, one hand still gripping my shoulder for support. "I live. The bond is made. The law holds." "The law," Kethris spat, "is whatever the strongest say it is." Shevra fired first. Her shot took him in the shoulder, spun him around. The other attackers opened fire, and suddenly the world was light and noise and heat. Shivera moved like water, like wind. Impossible grace in her combat. She took down 2 more attackers before they knew she'd moved, then grabbed us again. "Run!" We ran. Through alleys I knew by heart, made alien by darkness and rain and fear. Thessia stumbled, her injuries too fresh, her strength failing. I got under her other arm, helped support her weight. Behind us. Pursuit. I could hear them gaining their inhuman speed, eating the distance. "There!" Shevra pointed to a building I recognized. The old warehouse district, abandoned since the factories closed. She kicked in a door, and we tumbled into darkness that smelled of rust and decay. Shivera sealed the door with something from her belt, then sagged against the wall. Blood ran down her arm, mixing with rain. She'd been hit and hadn't said a word. "You're wounded," I said. "I'm functional." She straightened, checked her weapon. "That won't hold them long. Minutes at best." Thessia had collapsed against a support pillar, breathing ragged. In the dim light from Shevera's armor, her skin had lost some of its iridescence. She looked bad. Looked worse than when I'd found her. I knelt beside her, checked her pulse. Too fast. Fever, maybe, or shock catching up. "The sutures," I said. "Did any tear? Not the wounds. The debt." She caught my hand. "It's pulling, demanding acknowledgement. It's draining me. That's not possible." "That's not medical." "It's spiritual," Sharavara said. "The bond wants completion. Until you accept it formally, it'll eat at her, slowly kill her if left too long." I stared at her. "You're telling me she's dying from unfinished magic?" "I'm telling you she's dying from trying to hold on to a connection you haven't accepted." Shivera's eyes were hard. "This is what I meant. What you saved her from physically, you're killing her with spiritually. Unless you acknowledge the dead."
How?
"I was a doctor. I dealt with bacteria and viruses and broken bones, not spiritual bonds and alien magic. I don't know how." Gentle despite her shaking. "Just accept it. Say the words. I acknowledge the life debt. I accept the bond between savior and saved." Her smile was weak, simple as breathing. "And then what? You follow me around forever? Give up your throne, your people?" "Then I live," Thessia said, "and we figure out the rest." Outside, something heavy hit the sealed door. Metal shrieked. They'd be through soon. Shevara reloaded her weapon with practiced efficiency. "Decide quickly, human. In 60 seconds, the point becomes moot." I looked at Thessia. Really looked. Saw the queen underneath the wounds in fear. Saw the person who'd reached for me in the rain, desperate and dying. Saw someone who'd decided I was worth this insane, impossible bond. Saw myself reflected in those black eyes and recognized the same stubborn need to help that had made me a doctor in the first place. "This is insane," I said. "Yes," Thessia agreed. I don't know anything about your politics or your culture or... No, she agreed again. I'm completely unqualified for whatever this is.
Absolutely.
40 seconds, maybe less. I took her hand in both of mine, met her eyes. I acknowledge the life debt. The words felt heavy, significant in ways I didn't understand. I accept the bond between Savior and Saved. Warmth flooded from where our hands touched, racing up my arms into my chest. Thessia gasped, her back arching. The translator in my head went haywire for a second, filling my thoughts with images and emotions that weren't mine. Gratitude, relief, fierce protectiveness, something that might have been joy. Then it settled. The fever in her skin cooled, her breathing steadied. Color returned to her face, her iridescence brightening even in the dark. Holy shit, I whispered. Yeah, Shevra said dryly. That's about right. She checked the door. Now that that's settled, we still have the immediate problem of not dying. The door exploded inward. Kethris stood in the breach, armor scorched but functional. 3 more attackers flanked him. Touching, he said. The Savior's bond. How traditional. Ooh, how useless. Shavera raised her weapon. Kethris was faster. His shot took her in the chest, sent her flying backward. She hit the ground and didn't move. No. Thessia tried to stand. Failed. I caught her. Kethris advanced, weapon trained on us. Any last words, cousin? When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of generations, of authority absolute. You forget yourself, Kethris. You threaten a bonded savior. That's not just treason against the throne. It's sacrilege. Your throne is already lost, Kethris said. And your savior is just a human. What can he possibly... Despite her injuries, despite her weakness, she was still Catherine. Still royal. I'd be so trained in combat from childhood. She grabbed Kethris's weapon, twisted, broke his grip. Before he could recover, she turned it on him, pressed against his throat. I am still queen, she said quietly, and he is under my protection. Which means you have 2 choices, withdraw or die here knowing you failed. Kethris's soldiers aimed at her. She didn't flinch. She can't shoot all of you, Kethris said through gritted teeth. You know this. Buddy can. I didn't understand what she meant until I felt the weight in my hand. Chevarara's weapon. The commander had dropped it, and somehow I'd picked it up without thinking. I aimed it at the nearest soldier. My hand shook. I'd never fired a gun in my life, let alone an alien energy weapon. But they didn't know that. The Savior's bond works both ways, Thessia said. I protect him, he protects me. That's the law, the old law, written before your grandfather's grandfather was born. She pressed the weapon harder against Kethris's throat. Now choose. Silence. Long enough that I thought it wouldn't work. Then Kethris made a gesture, sharp and angry. His soldiers lowered their weapons. This isn't over, he said. It never is, Thessia agreed. She released him, stepped back, nearly collapsed. I caught her again. Kethris and his soldiers retreated through the broken door. We watched them disappear into the rain. Then Thesia's strength gave out completely. She fell and I fell with her, both of us hitting the ground in a tangle of limbs and exhaustion. Shavara, I gasped. Crawled to where the commander lay, found her pulse. Weak, but there. The armor had absorbed most of the hit. She'd be okay, eventually. Thessia laughed. Actually laughed, there on the dirty warehouse floor. That worked. I can't believe that worked. You're insane, I told her. Yes, she said, and you're bonded to me now. So what does that make you? I didn't have an answer, just held her there in the dark, listening to rain drum on the roof, feeling the too fast beat of her alien heart against my chest. Somewhere in the distance, sirens. Human authorities, finally responding to the chaos. Too late to help, but maybe soon enough to complicate everything further. What now? I asked. Thessia's hand found mine. Squeezed. Together, that's what the bond means. I'm a doctor, not a soldier. Then you'll teach me to heal, she said, and I'll teach you to fight. Fair trade. Wasn't even close. But looking at her, my queen, my responsibility, my utterly impossible problem, I found I didn't care. Okay, I said. But we're getting Shavara medical attention first. Obviously, Thessia smiled. She'd kill us both if we didn't. In the darkness, surrounded by evidence of violence and impossibility, I started laughing. Couldn't help it. The absurdity of everything. The weight of what I'd accepted, the alien queen using me as a pillow while her unconscious commander bled nearby. Tessia joined in, her musical laughter mixing with mine, filling the warehouse with sound that had no right to exist in this moment. We were alive, bonded, hunted, and somehow, impossibly, that felt like enough. 2 weeks. That's how long it took for normal to become a word I barely remembered. Shavara had recovered within days, the Kethron healing factor knitting her injuries faster than seemed possible. She'd woken, assessed the situation with those calculating eyes, and immediately begun fortifying my clinic with technology that made the building look like a historical site from the inside, but scanned like solid bedrock to anyone searching from orbit. Stealth measures, she'd explained, watching her soldiers install devices that hummed at frequencies I felt in my bones. Your primitive satellites won't detect them. Neither will Kethrus's scanners. My primitive satellites, I'd repeated dryly. Thanks for that. Tessia had healed too, though slower. The sutures I'd placed held, the silver blood stopped flowing, and gradually the color returned to her skin. But the bond, the thing I'd accepted without understanding, that changed everything. I felt her now. Not constantly, not overwhelming, but like a presence at the edge of awareness. Her emotions sometimes bled through when they ran strong. Her pain registered as dull aches in my own body. And she felt me too, she said, my worry and confusion and the stubborn determination that had made me a doctor in the first place. It's not mind reading, she'd explained one morning while I checked her wounds. More like standing in the same room. You know someone else is there even without looking. Comforting, I'd said, trying not to think about the implications. Now I stood in what had been my clinic's waiting room, watching the morning sun filter through windows that Shevra had reinforced with transparent metal. Outside, life in the settlement continued as normal. Patients came and went, unaware that an alien queen was sleeping in my back room or that royal guards in human disguise watched from rooftops. The door chimed. Old woman Mrs. Chen, clutching her arm. Doctor, she said, I think I sprained something. I guided her to an examination chair, gentle with her fragile bones. Behind me, I felt Thessia's attention focus. She'd taken to watching me work, fascinated by what she called primitive but effective medicine. How'd this happen? I asked Mrs. Chen, probing her wrist carefully. Gardening, she admitted. Tried to move a planter that was too heavy. Stubborn old fool, my daughter says. I smiled. Stubbornness can be a virtue. Glanced back at where Thesia sat, supposedly reading but obviously listening. Sometimes it saves lives. Mrs. Chen followed my gaze. Saw Thesia, who'd learned to keep her more alien features hidden under carefully arranged clothing and strategically placed shadows. Your wife? Mrs. Chen asked. I nearly choked. No. She's... What? My queen? My bonded responsibility? The alien I'd saved who'd upended my entire existence? She's staying with me for a while. Visiting. Chen's knowing look said she didn't believe a word. Pretty girl. Tall, though. Genetics, Thessia said smoothly, her accent strange but not impossibly so through the translator. My family runs tall. After I'd wrapped Mrs. Chen's wrist and sent her on her way with painkillers and strict instructions to let her daughter lift heavy things, Thessia appeared at my shoulder. Your wife? She said, amused. Your disguise needs work. I'm doing my best. She touched the scarf wrapped around her head, hiding the places where her bone structure went wrong. Human features are difficult to approximate. You're doing fine. I cleaned the examination area, aware of her watching. Shivara says we can't stay here much longer. Too risky. I know. Thessia's hand found my shoulder. The casual touch had become normal over 2 weeks. The bond-making proximity feel natural. I've contacted my sister. She's holding the throne, but Vora's is making moves, building alliances. Without me there to counter him. Then go back, I said. Not the first time I'd suggested it. No, Thessia. We've discussed this. She turned me to face her, those black eyes serious. The bond isn't optional, and even if it were, leaving you now. With Kethrus knowing your face, your location, that's a death sentence. He hasn't come back. He's planning, Shavara said, entering from the back room. She'd been running perimeter checks, paranoid as always. The first attempt was rushed. Opportunistic. The next will be calculated. I sank into a chair, exhaustion creeping in. So what's the plan? Hide here forever? Wait for assassins? No, Thessia said. We go to the Dominion. Together. 2 weeks of hints and careful suggestions building to this. I can't leave. My patients will be reassigned to the settlement's other medical facility, Shivara interrupted. I've already made arrangements. I stopped. Processed. You had no right. I have every right, Shivara said, unmoved by my anger. You're bonded to the Queen. That makes you an asset. Assets must be protected, even from their own stubbornness. I'm not an asset. I'm a person. You're both. Thessia knelt beside my chair, bringing her eyes level with mine. And as a person, you have a choice. Come with me willingly or be taken by the next assassination attempt. Because Kethris won't stop, Vora's won't stop. They'll keep coming until you're dead and I'm vulnerable. The bond pulsed with her conviction, her certainty that this was the only path. I don't belong in your world, I said quietly. I'm a small-town doctor. I set broken bones and treat infections. I don't know anything about politics or warfare or... You know how to save lives, Thessia said. How to see someone suffering and help them despite the risk. That's worth more than you realize. Before I could respond, alarm shrieked. Shivara's hand went to her weapon, her whole body shifting into combat mode. What? I started. Orbital scan, Shivara said, reading something on her forearm display. Someone just targeted this building with military-grade sensors. They know we're here. Thessia stood, fluid despite her healing injuries. Kethris, worse. Shivara's expression went cold.
Voris himself.
Multiple signatures, capital-class ship. He's not sending assassins this time. He's coming personally, Thessia whispered. The building shook, not violently, but enough to rattle equipment, send instruments clattering. Outside, people screamed. I ran to the window.
Looked up.
The sky was wrong. Bent somehow, reality twisting around a shape that hurt to perceive directly. A ship. Massive beyond reason, hanging in atmosphere like gravity was optional. Weapons ports glowed along its hull, each one capable of erasing the settlement in seconds. He wouldn't, Thessia said beside me. Orbital bombardment of a primitive world. That's beyond even him. He's desperate, Shivara said. You're alive, bonded, legitimate. As long as you exist, his claim is contested. He'll burn this entire planet if it means securing the throne. The ship's weapons charged. I could see it, feel it, some instinct screaming danger. We have to evacuate, I said. Get everyone out for... No time, Shivara said. She was already moving, pulling equipment from hidden compartments. Our ship, now. It's the only chance. I'm not leaving these people to die. We won't have to, Thessia said. She grabbed my arm, pulled me toward the back exit. Shivara, full defensive protocols, shields at maximum. Your Majesty, that's an order. We ran. Through the back room, downstairs I hadn't known existed until Shivara had installed them. Underground tunnel, walls lined with alien technology, leading to a chamber that held a ship like nothing I'd imagined. Sleek, organic-looking, big enough for maybe 20 people. Shivara's soldiers were already aboard, prepping systems. Get in, Shivara commanded. I'll pilot. You two, strap in and... Not fire. Not force. Something worse. The ship above had fired, and where the beam touched Earth, matter simply ceased. Buildings disappeared. People disappeared. Reality unwrote itself in expanding circles. I watched my clinic vanish. The place I'd built, where I'd saved lives for 15 years. Gone in less than a second. No, I breathed. Thessia's hand found mine. I'm sorry. Our ship launched. G-forces crushed me into the seat as Shivara pushed the engines beyond safe limits. Through the viewport I watched the settlement, my home, die. Vora's ship methodically erasing it, leaving nothing but scorched earth. Casualties? Thessia asked, voice tight. Minimal, one of the soldiers reported. The defensive field caught most of the settlement, suspended them in stasis before the beam hit. Couldn't reconcile alien technology saving people I'd known for years from a threat they didn't understand. He'll follow us, Shivara said. She was right. The massive ship was turning, weapons tracking our trajectory. I can outmaneuver him, but not outrun, not with a capital ship's range. Then we fight, Thessia said. We have 6 soldiers and a shuttle, Shivara replied. He has a fleet. Thessia's jaw set. Then we're clever. She moved to the communication station, fingers dancing across controls. Spoke in rapid Kethran, formal and commanding. The response came quickly, another voice I didn't recognize. What are you doing? I asked. Calling in the debt, Thessia said. Every favor owed, every alliance made. I'm still queen. Time to remind the Dominion who holds that title. Just points of light at first, then growing, resolving into warships that made Voraz's vessel look small. They dropped from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, weapons already trained on the threat. The 7th Fleet, Shervara breathed. How did you... She's been busy. The largest ship, ornate and powerful, opened a communication channel. The woman who appeared on screen looked like Thessia, but harder, older, carrying authority like a weapon. Sister, she said, you're looking well for someone supposedly dead. Rumors of my demise? Thesia replied with a slight smile. You know how it is. I do. The sister's gaze shifted to me. Assessed. Dismissed, returned to Thessia. Voraz has overstepped. The council will censure him for this. The council can discuss it after he's in chains, Thessia said. He just tried to glass a primitive world. That's not just treason, it's genocide. Agreed. The sister made a gesture. The fleet moved, surrounding Voraz's ship. He'll surrender or be destroyed. Either way, he's finished. Voras's response came through on open channel, defiant and desperate. Threats, accusations, claims that Tessia had violated sacred law by bonding with a human. Sacred law? Thessia repeated softly. Then, louder, broadcasting to the entire fleet, I am queen of the Kethran Dominion. I acknowledge my savior, a human named... She looked at me. John, I said. Just John. John, she repeated. Who saved my life when he could have walked away? Who stood between me and death without hesitation? If that violates your law, Uncle, then your law is worthless. Silence across every ship? Then, from the 7th Fleet, weapons charged. Not targeting Voraz. Targeting us. No, Shivera whispered. Thessia's sister looked almost sad. I'm sorry. But the council has spoken. Bonding with a primitive is grounds for abdication. You're no longer queen. Thessia's hand tightened on mine. Through the bond, I felt her shock, her betrayal, her devastating loss. You're choosing him? She asked her sister. After everything? I'm choosing the Dominion, her sister replied. Like you should have. The weapon's fired. Shevara's piloting saved us. She threw the ship into maneuvers that should have torn the hull apart, dodging fire that lit space like lightning. But there were too many ships, too many weapons. We couldn't escape. Then the firing stopped. Every ship, Voraz's included, went dark. Engines cut. Weapons offline. Just floating in space like abandoned toys.
What?
Shevara checked her instruments. We're not affected. Just them. How is that possible? Thessia was smiling. Actually smiling, fierce and proud. Because the fleet systems run on royal authentication. And I'm still queen until the council officially removes me. Which requires a formal trial. She worked the controls. Which requires me to be present. Which I'm not. Was I locked them out? I said, I locked them down. She corrected. The Dominion's entire military fleet, frozen in space. They'll get free eventually, but by then we'll be gone. Shevra finished, already plotting a jump to faster than light. Your Majesty, that was necessary, Thessia said. She sagged in her chair, the effort visible. And it buys us time. Not much, but enough. Enough for what? I asked. She looked at me. Through the bond, I felt her determination, her desperate hope. Enough to prove them wrong. Bonding with you wasn't weakness. That your world isn't primitive, just different. That the old laws have wisdom they've forgotten. And if you can't prove it, then I lose everything, she said simply. Title, power, home, everything except the bond. Except you. The weight of that settled over me. She'd given up her throne, her entire civilization. For what? A life debt? An alien she barely knew? For the principle, because she believed in the old laws and the value of a life saved. Because she was stubborn enough to stand against her entire species. Because I realized with creeping certainty she was right. Okay, I said. Everyone looked at me. Okay, I repeated. We prove them wrong. Show them that humans aren't primitive, that the bond has value, that their laws mean something. I met Thessia's eyes. But we do it together, as equals, not queen and savior. Partners. Thessia's smile could have lit the dark. Partners. Shivera cleared her throat. Inspiring. Are we running now or after the fleet gets power back? Running, Thessia and I said in unison. Space folded. The ship jumped, carrying us away from everything Thessia had known, everything I'd built, into darkness and uncertainty and a future we'd have to create ourselves. Through the viewport, stars stretched into lines. I held Thessia's hand and felt the bond pulse with shared determination. We'd saved each other. Now we'd save ourselves. And maybe, just maybe, change 2 civilizations in the process. The ship's engines hummed, carrying us toward whatever came next. Together. Partners in an impossible bond that had cost us everything. And I wouldn't change a single choice.